November 22, 1963, began as a routine political trip. President John F. Kennedy flew to Dallas, Texas to do what politicians have always done: shake hands, make speeches, and mend fences ahead of an election. There had been warnings about the city's hostility, but Kennedy insisted on riding in an open-top limousine because he believed in being seen. What happened in the next 90 minutes would fracture American history cleanly in two: everything before and everything after. To understand this story, we need to understand the moment. Kennedy was 46 years old, the youngest man ever elected president, navigating a country stretched tight by Cold War anxiety, the Civil Rights Movement, and a Democratic Party fractured along regional lines. Texas was critical ground. He needed it. And so, on a bright November morning, his motorcade moved through the cheering streets of downtown Dallas toward what should have been just another rally. At 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the presidential limousine turned onto Elm Street in Dealey Plaza, passing the Texas School Book Deposit. Then the world changed. 3 shots rang out in fewer than 8 seconds. A local businessman named Abraham Zapruder had been filming from a concrete pedestal nearby. His 8mm home movie, what we now call the Zapruder film, captured the horror in real time. Kennedy reacting to a wound to his back and throat, then a second shot striking his head. Governor John Connally, seated directly in front of the president, was also hit. The limousine accelerated. The motorcade raced toward Parkland Memorial Hospital at nearly 80 miles per hour. Doctors at Parkland worked with everything they had. It was not enough. At 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, John Fitzgerald Kennedy was pronounced dead. A priest administered last rites. Jacqueline Kennedy, standing just outside the trauma room, refused to change out of her pink Chanel-style suit, still visibly stained with her husband's blood. She reportedly said she wanted the world to see what had been done. That suit has never been washed. It is sealed in a box at the National Archives, and per the Kennedy family's wishes, will not be displayed publicly until the year 2103. At 1:33 p.m., Press Secretary Malcolm Kilduff confirmed to the press what the world was already fearing: the president was dead. Across town, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson remained under Secret Service protection. At 2:38 p.m., aboard Air Force One, still parked at Love Field, Johnson was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States by federal judge Sarah T. Hughes, the first and only woman ever to swear in a president. Jacqueline Kennedy stood at his side, her expression hollow. Kennedy's flag-draped casket was in the rear of the aircraft. The plane departed for Washington within minutes. Back in Dallas, a suspect was already in flight. Lee Harvey Oswald, an employee of the Texas School Book Depository, had slipped out of the building after the shots. At approximately 1:15 p.m., he shot and killed Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit, just over a mile away. 13 witnesses identified him. He was arrested at the Texas Theater at around 1:50 p.m. When reporters pressed him, he denied everything, claiming he was, and I quote, "just a patsy." 2 days later, on November 24th, as Oswald was being transferred through the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters in full view of live television cameras, a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby stepped forward and shot him at point-blank range. Oswald died at Parkland Memorial Hospital that same afternoon. The one man who might have answered the nation's most urgent questions was gone. America had learned of the assassination through its radios and television sets. At CBS News, anchor Walter Cronkite had spent the afternoon relaying bulletins from Dallas. Then, at approximately 2:38 p.m. Eastern Time, he removed his glasses, glanced at the clock, and delivered what became one of the most iconic moments in broadcast history. From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official. President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. He paused. Even Walter Cronkite needed a moment. The network suspended all commercial programming for 4 days. No advertisements, no entertainment. For the first time, television served as the nation's collective witness to a catastrophe as it happened. Here is what the numbers show. A Gallup survey found that 93% of American adults had heard the news within 2 hours of the shooting, one of the fastest mass information spreads ever recorded in any era. The stock market in New York closed early. Schools dismissed. Businesses shut their doors. Men wept openly in the streets, which in the Stoic culture of 1963 was almost unheard of. Churches opened and filled. An estimated 175 million Americans watched the 4 days of continuous television coverage. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev reportedly wept at the news. Flags were lowered across Western Europe. Even in adversarial nations, the reaction was shock. On November 25th, Kennedy was buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. More than 1 million people lined the streets of Washington. Leaders from over 90 nations walked in the funeral procession. And then there was the photograph that stopped time. John F. Kennedy Jr., 3 years old, saluting his father's casket as it passed. Kennedy was interred beneath an eternal flame, personally requested by Jacqueline Kennedy, modeled on the one at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Paris. November 22, 1963, was not simply the day a president died. It was the day a nation discovered how utterly bound together it was through its screens and through its grief. Television would never be the same. Neither would America. Thank you for joining us. If this story moved you, share it, because history remembered is history understood. Was Lee Harvey Oswald alone? That question, asked urgently, almost desperately, in the days following November 22, 1963, launched one of the most extensive criminal investigations in American history. It also sparked 6 decades of debate that shows no sign of stopping. Today, we are going to walk through the official investigations, the key evidence, and the most prominent conspiracy theories. And we are going to be precise about what each actually is: evidence or theory. Within a week of the assassination, President Lyndon Johnson established what became known as the Warren Commission, chaired by Chief Justice Earl Warren. Over 10 months, the commission reviewed thousands of documents, heard testimony from 552 witnesses, and examined all available physical evidence. Its 888-page final report, released in September 1964, reached clear conclusions. Oswald, acting alone, fired 3 shots from the 6th-floor window of the Texas School Book Depository. 1 shot missed. 1 caused a non-fatal wound. The 3rd struck Kennedy's head and was fatal. Jack Ruby acted alone in killing Oswald. No credible evidence of a conspiracy existed. The commission's most contested finding was the single bullet theory, officially Commission Exhibit 399. This proposed that 1 rifle bullet entered Kennedy's upper back, exited his throat, then entered and exited Governor Connolly's chest, passed through his wrist, and lodged in his thigh. 7 wounds from a single projectile. Critics immediately called it the magic bullet, arguing the path seemed anatomically impossible. Defenders argue that when you properly account for the relative seating positions of Kennedy and Connolly, modern trajectory analysis actually makes the path geometrically consistent. The debate continues among forensic researchers to this day.
Now let's look at the physical evidence.
Oswald's Mannlicher Carcano rifle was found on the 6th floor of the book depository, alongside 3 spent cartridges. Paraffin tests showed gunshot residue on Oswald's cheek. Ballistic analysis matched bullet fragments recovered from the presidential limousine to Oswald's specific weapon. Autopsy findings confirmed Kennedy was struck from behind, consistent with shots originating from the depository. And the Zapruder film, studied frame by frame for 60 years, remains the most forensically analyzed home movie in history, providing the foundational visual record of the entire sequence.
A turning point came in 1979, when the House Select Committee on Assassinations re-examined the case.
Using acoustic analysis of a Dallas police dictabelt recording, the committee concluded there were probably 4 shots, suggesting a second gunman on the grassy knoll. It was a seismic finding. But in 1982, a panel convened by the National Academy of Sciences determined the acoustic analysis was fundamentally flawed. The recording in question was made a minute after the shooting, not during it. The committee's conspiracy conclusion lost its scientific foundation, and most mainstream historians returned to the Warren Commission's lone gunman finding.
Between 2017 and 2023, more than 63,000 pages of previously classified assassination records were released by order of law. Historians reviewed them carefully. No document proved a conspiracy. But the files did reveal something significant. The CIA and FBI knew considerably more about Oswald before the assassination than they had ever publicly acknowledged. The CIA had Oswald under active surveillance in Mexico City just 6 weeks before November 22nd, when he visited both the Soviet and Cuban embassies. No alert was issued when he returned. Historian Philip Shannon has suggested the prolonged secrecy was not about hiding a murder plot, but about hiding what he called incompetence and laziness. Agencies that failed to connect the dots and did not want that failure exposed. Now to the theories, and I want to be clear, these are theories. They are not supported by direct evidence, but they deserve honest examination. The Soviet and KGB theory holds that Oswald, who had defected to the Soviet Union and lived there for nearly 3 years before returning with a Soviet wife, may have been directed by the KGB. Historians who reviewed KGB files after the Soviet Union's collapse found no evidence the KGB directed Oswald. Soviet leadership feared the political consequences of such an act far too much. The Cuban exile and CIA plot theory argues that rogue CIA operatives, or anti-Castro Cubans, furious over Kennedy's failure to provide air support at the Bay of Pigs, arranged the assassination. Investigators have found no chain of command linking any CIA operation to the killing. The Mafia theory points to Jack Ruby's documented ties to organized crime figures and suggests the mob, enraged by Robert Kennedy's prosecution of organized crime, orchestrated the killing. Ruby's underworld connections were real. A direct link to the planning of the assassination has never been established. The Lyndon B. Johnson theory alleges LBJ orchestrated the assassination to seize the presidency. Historians universally regard this as baseless and unsupported by any credible documentary or testimonial evidence. The military-industrial complex theory holds that defense interests, alarmed by Kennedy's potential de-escalation in Vietnam, had him removed. Kennedy had signed an order calling for the withdrawal of military advisors from Vietnam. But a conspiracy of this scale would require an extraordinary number of participants to have maintained absolute secrecy for over 6 decades, a near impossible proposition. Here is what the evidence actually supports. The mainstream scholarly consensus, grounded in the Warren Commission's findings, the physical ballistic evidence, the Zapruder film, and the debunking of the HSCA's acoustic analysis, holds that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. The declassified documents have added nuance to the pre-assassination intelligence picture, but have produced no proof of a coordinated plot. What remains genuinely unresolved is this: what exactly did the CIA and FBI know about Oswald before November 22nd? And why did they fail to act? That institutional failure, some historians now argue, may be the real cover-up, not a murder conspiracy, but a bureaucratic one. History demands that we distinguish between what we know and what we suspect. The assassination of President Kennedy is a story where those lines have often been blurred, sometimes deliberately. Our obligation, as students of history, is to hold those two categories apart, examine the evidence honestly, and resist the comfort of certainty where uncertainty is the more truthful position. Thank you for joining us. If you want to go deeper, the primary sources are now largely available. Read them yourself. Draw your own conclusions. That is exactly what history is for.